Bless up, ABR family. Welcome back to another live video. Welcome back. It's your girl, Anisabel Rose. Quick shout out goes to members Angela and Yvonne Wallace, who's a part of the ABR membership. And also for those who commented first on the last videos that I uploaded. We want to say notification shout out goes to Yvette Grant. Big up yourself, Yvette. As well as Bowler VNR 2.0. Big up yourself, Bowler. My people run go over his channel and all the other social media warriors platform. And go give them that support. Subscribe to their channel if you're not yet a subscriber. And remember to like up the videos them and share out the videos them. Now today is a very important press conference via the People's National Party. Head of it is the president of the People's National Party, Mark Golding himself, as well as Damian Crawford, who is the Shadow Minister of Education, and Julian Robinson, who is the Shadow Minister of Finance. And with a stellar performance by the People's National Party, or the opposition, if you want to call it that, as it pertains to the whole budget debate, I must give them that. Word on the street, the Prime Minister and his other counterparts, colleagues, them did boring. The people them attack. And I'm alone, I say so. Rumba Time News, bless up yourself. My people run go over her channel and subscribe to her channel. As when you come up on the live, please to like and share out the live. Now, the People's National Party will start their press conference at 11 a.m. But I go on talk about the things them. But as I stated, they have had that, support from the people. The people are saying that, yeah, a well put together, budget presentation debate via the People's National Party. And when I tell you that them roll out plans and policies, they have been rolling out plans and policy, but the people them will behave like them darker than dark, act as if they weren't, aware, trying to downplay the integrity and the whole character of Mark Golding and the People's National Party. We know what mainstream media is doing. You understand? Trying to switch and twist the narrative at all times. And I must give it to them. They have done well. Barbara Finley, big up yourself. Right? They have done well. And plans and policies laid out for all. Not the elites alone, but for all, even down to the people and we're down in the grassroots area. And we see them running out, asking some little analysts. We seen Ralston Hyman call them duns. Even them from the government side running out, wanting to know, playing the devil's advocate, because them know the budget, whatever proposals that the People's National Party give, it's going to be according to the budget that was rolled out. Now, if they roll out $1.26 trillion and it's a budget debate, common sense not telling us say, whatever the proposal and plans of the People's National Party are towards whatever the funding of that budget, them are going to roll out for them plans towards. Right? And we learn. We're never too old or too young to learn. We learn from one of the greatest economists in my eyes. We always willing and always want to hear from Ralston Hyman. And them are going to come with the raw truth. But some people are through politics tonight. And we learned that there's always a $360 billion worth of discretionary fund. That, whosoever party is in power is going to use that towards whatever proposal and plans that they have laid out. Right? And we know that whatever is laid out right now would be for the governing party. And so we wouldn't see a Mark Golding government, as he stated, come and follow the same layout as them. The people will vote for the People's National Party to lay out for them proposal. And remember, this no need a rocket scientist for you to know that not all of the plans that Mark Golding roll out will be dealt with right away. So there's gonna always be that 360 plus other funds there to take care of whatever, but he's gonna prioritize. Remember that. You're gonna put the most important ones at the forefront. And at the rate of how this government is behaving, families, well-thinking Jamaicans, don't expect Mark Golding to come and fix everything in a 1 or 2 years. Because base scrapings are gone. I wanna need an eyeglass to see that. Big up yourself, Bevan Brown, Michelle McIntosh. Big up yourself. All those who join in just now on the live, wanna big up on yourself. Thanks for the continued support on the channel. Now we're seeing them running out as well, asking how will these plans and policies be funded. We see them even running out, drawing for even trying to pull up the document here. We see them running out as well, asking the independent Fiscal Commission to speak or to comment on the initiatives put forward by the opposition. And sometimes when them run out, you have to wonder if them sensible. So the Independent Fiscal Commission says it is unlawful to comment on initiatives put forward by opposition during the budget debate. The Independent Fiscal Commission only has the authority to speak on whatever is laid out by the government, because whatever is laid out by the opposition, until they get in power, then the Independent Fiscal Commission can speak on it. But for now, it's the government, them would have mostly affect the budget right now, because they are the ones in leadership. So when you hear them a run out and them a call upon this person, have they ever thought to find out from Favour Williams how will she fund some of these things that she roll out? And you see they come back and try to gaslight with the people talking about she won the People's National Party and the supporters as it pertains to, belittling probox, and come and read out how much 10,000 when she was the one who sat down post her budget presentation and sat with Dion Jackson Miller and stated that the $2,000 that they're giving on per month to the workers, after the 3 years time, they will be able to pay down on a little probox. So when you say little probox, you talk like probox after 200,000. You talk like probox after 300,000. Where after 3 years, you have $72,000. So the people they must sit down. 3 years time, you have $72,000 when you take 300% increase. I want to take on a retroactive right after, but we're seeing various sectors of workers crying and asking for their overtime. As I stated in our previous live, a co-worker of mine called me from the hospital that I usually work and saying that they're hearing that they're not getting their uniform allowance and they're not getting certain allowances that is due to them no later than April month, and it's said that they're not getting that until 3 months time. And they have been waiting for the retroactive from last year. Them here say it go roll out December. Then them come again, them say it go roll out January. January pass and gone. December pass and gone. Them here say they go roll out this mountain. Them still not get it. Now they're here in 3 months' time. But yet still a politician, them can't get for them traveling allowance. Them can't get them meal allowance. Right? But the workers that are the backbone of the country, the essential workers, have to be crying and fighting tooth and nail with the government. And when I thought that the closing remarks would have been how they're gonna sort out these, the minister come with gimmicks. The minister come in our parliament with gimmicks. And me I go run this video, me gonna hear what she said. She was the one who was downplaying the price and the value of the probox. So oh no, it is a People's National Party, a blame game. How is this a People's National Party fault now? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. But just make you hear this. We stay in tune until them go live. The People's National Party go live. But I want you to hear this for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
$2,000 a month over 3 years, Minister. You think you can put out on a car with that?
Yeah, a little probox.
Like a 20-year-old probox.
Let me caution the opposition and their supporters about how they talk about probox. Currently, there are 23,423 probox vehicle owners in Jamaica. So be very careful that you don't disrespect probox. Be very careful. Be very careful. Be very careful that you don't disrespect probox, which is made by Toyota, the largest car manufacturer in the world.
Yes, on a monthly basis. Let's call it $2,000 a month. If you faithfully put away that $2,000 because it's something that you were not getting before, 3 years, you'll have a tidy sum that you could put down on a car, a little probox. That you have to drive to go to work, and you don't have to stand up in the sun or think about rain to get a vehicle to drive. So yeah,
$2,000 a month over 3 years, Minister. You think you can put out on a car with that?
Yeah, a little probox.
Like a 20-year-old probox.
And my only message to Favour Williams at this time come for the come out of the parliament. Time come for the people to get leaders who will stand up and speak with authority and walk the walk and talk the talk. No time for gimmicks. Time for solutions. Can you imagine? She was the one who said a little probox and want to come now to blame the people. That this is how them operate. But time come for solutions. Time come, the people need a change. And so, as I stated, with all the plans that the People's National Party has rolled out, from benefits to the disabled, creating a disability fund. And we're seeing him roll out plans for the micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as the EASE program, agriculture and food security, stable economy, a better economy for all, education and training, housing for young people, for the civil servants, even for the low income. And right now, Mark Golding is getting a lot of endorsement. And when I say he's getting a lot of endorsement, believe he's getting a lot of endorsement. The Jamaica Charity for the Disabled welcomes Golding's plan to establish the Disability Fund under the Mark Golding-led People's National Party government. So that's a good, because oftentimes, you know, not many, if you check over other countries in the world, them have funds set aside from the budget or from whatever tax or whatever they collect from the citizens of the country. They have funds set aside to assist those who might have a child or family members who are disabled. And for the People's National Party to roll out this initiative is a very good thing. And right now, the disabled community in full support of that which was laid out by the People's National Party. Again, we're seeing the Agriculture Development Fund. We're seeing the president of the Jamaica Agriculture Society, that's a JAS, Mr. Lenworth Fulton, laid out that he's in full support. They're in full support of that Agriculture Development Fund to help and to assist our farmers. We need better food security. Big up yourself, North Star, Son of Love, Damian Johnson, Rex Coley, Karen Kelly, Jerry Sadler, Chelsea Clinton. Big up yourself. Everybody will just join the live. Big up on yourself. And at one point, when we see the and did roll it out, them twist it and them spin it and them talk all kind of things. Right? But it's a good initiative. And even the president, as I stated, is in full support of that. He's getting another endorsement even from the whole Realtors Association, welcoming Golding's well-intended or well-intentioned housing proposals. He's getting support from that end as well. The rent to own when roll out, trust and believe. I am in full agreement of it. Because as we know, this government had changed the whole mandate of the housing trust, the National Housing Trust that was set in place by Michael Manley. Right? To cater to low income. But right now, the house prices of 20 and 30 million, approaching 40 million. A whole heap of we now can't own a house unless a family, God forbid, migrate and gone and left a house give we are them drop out, sad to say. You understand? And each person would want to own a house for themselves and not a fair leech and a live and a family. Them rolling out talking about them increase housing trust loan to 9 million still don't carry no weight as to the plans and policy that Mark Golding has laid out. I mean, I see how them could have ever beat the rent to own when Mark Golding bring back. They abandoned the whole Operation Pride. So them are sure we say them not really cater about we. They not cater if we even want to own a place. You understand? Big up yourself, Norma. Glennox, big up. Farmer, big up. Donald, Ardeen. Them no cater. And that is sad. But them want to convince we to give them a third term. And after 9 years, them can't lay out for them. Them can't lay out them achievement. Them coming with blame game here, there, and everywhere. Julian Robinson also laid out some very good plans to support and spread government fund, right? And he has been given good endorsement too. He has been given. To which we're seeing the hold on. To which we see the micro, small, and medium enterprises saying that is a step in the right direction. And this is coming from one of the chairperson, Mr. Lecky. So they fully endorse that as well. We're seeing him roll out a 1 billion initiative too in the creative economy to support, you know, small businesses, to support even, you know, social media warriors, people who have talent, and even that we hear the minions them bashing. How can you bash something like that when we are known for our culture and creative industries? People love Jamaica for our culture. So is it a crime to strengthen our culture department? No. But Mr. Willie have a song right here, so we may go play out right now. And I couldn't hear what Mr. Willie has said. Because right now, Mr. Willie fully endorsing the People's National Party. One time him saying the dip on the fence, you know, but I want to hear this. One time him saying was a manly heights, you know, but him was saying the dip on the fence because, as me say, Mark Golden did always there behind the scenes, you know, crafting and deal with the whole legislative part of our governance, even under Portia Simpson Miller government. And when he was put to the forefront, he spoke it many times. You know, a whole heap of people never know him. And we seen where he was down in the polls and him redeem himself. And him show we say he's a man of integrity. And him show that he's a man who walk the walk and talk the talk. And whatever he says that he will do, that he has done. And he has proven himself to the people. And even when they were down in the polls, you never hear them, did I bash the polls to them and I bash. And I say, boy, no, you know, right, or them not believe in it. Dayton always believed that Mark Golden could have risen to the occasion. And each time Dayton, he never shun away. That's why I respect him so much. He never shun away from an interview. Him always I say, we have a plan. We have a plan. And they try in many ways, shape, and form to come at Mark Golden when on him skin color. Them try to paint him as a UK born. Them try to strip him of him nationality when he's a born Jamaican. And them find all kind of things to say. Him for go back on banana boat. Or somebody for go back where them not come from. When the motto says out of many one people. And this man has proven himself, over and over. I call him right now the integrity boss. Because we have a leader who they want to convince us to get a third term. When it's 4 years and counting, that he is not certified by our anti-corruption body, the Integrity Commission. A man that who is trying to convince us that the People's National Party is the worst of all and that the JLP is built in Jamaica. And over 9 years, he has not built a school. But want to convince us, big up yourself, Patricia. Kayan, big up. Sonia. Wants to convince us that he should go again on our ballot with a big cloud of illicit enrichment investigation over him head. Taking our state to the court, suing our state, fighting tooth and nail with our integrity commission body. When this man should have stepped away and allow the investigation to be completed. Give the necessary, the accurate information so that the Integrity Commission could have made their ruling. But no, that's not his aim, that's not his agenda. But we, well-thinking Jamaicans, if we overlook that, no man, you hear what Mr. Willie has said, for all of the people them where they dip on the fence, see Mr. Willie a cross over to the People's National Party. So I want to see, based on what was laid out, the budget debate speaks volume. The budget debate says a lot, and it shows us what the government intention is versus the People's National Party intention. And if Mr. Willie can cross over after being in the middle or being on the fence, what says others who were on the fence? Listen to this.
Well, not going to the false promise. The things that we are put to the back in the office. On the think we are novice. On the listen to this. Alright, yes, we are going to vote them out, cause they not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we are tell them promptly. Look how the whole of them are on we will listen. Vote them out, cause they not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we are tell them promptly. Oh, what the whole of them are on we. Argument done, time has come. And Joe, back up your things and run. Marty G, I come, we run the kingdom. Cause and Joe, your time is done. Cause we put up in a office for 9 whole year. You sit down in there just like you not here. And every day more money just a disappear. That's why we have a vote you out of the here. Vote them out, cause they not see me when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and you be tell them promptly. Oh, what the whole of them are hungry. Yes, we have a vote them out. Cause them not see me when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we are tell them promptly.
Oh, what the one there? Hold on, my people. We have to pull up that one there. Hold on there. Hold on there. Hold on there. We never know say I saw Mr. Willie back. Whoa, he ball out Jamaica.
Well, not going to the false promise. The things that we are put to the back in the office. On the think we are novice. On the listen to this. Alright, yes, we are going to vote them out, cause they not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we are tell them promptly. Look how the whole of them are on we will listen. Vote them out, cause they not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we are tell them promptly. Oh, what the whole of them are on we. Argument done, time has come. And Joe, back up your things and run. Marty G, I come, we run the kingdom. Cause and Joe, your time is done. Cause we put up in a office for 9 whole year. You sit down in there just like you not here. And every day more money just a disappear. That's why we have a vote you out of the here. Vote them out, cause them not see me when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and you be tell them promptly. Oh, what the whole of them are hungry. Yes, we have a vote them out. Cause them not see me when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we are tell them promptly. Oh, what the whole of them.
Big tune, Mr. Willie. Anybody wants to chime in? I'm still looking to see if the People's National Party has started their press conference. It has not started as yet. I'm about to pin the number to call in WhatsApp only. Want hear phone 2 cents. The number is gonna be pinned at the top of the screen. In the meantime, ABR family and viewers, and like up the live, share it out. The number is at the top of the screen. Anybody wants to chime in. Still checking to see whether or not they have started. Not as yet. What want to think about Mr. Willie? What want to think about that tune there? Mr. Willie are going with a bag of things. Big up Patrick, Delroy. Jamaican vibes. So we're seeing ABR family say a blame game them coming with. Too much blame game and it's not gonna work with us. Not at all. We're not gonna have it. None at all. What says y'all, family? Anyone wants to call in before the press conference begin? Let me hear what I say. WhatsApp call only at 954-288-6467.
Morning, ABR.
Blessed morning, my brother. How you doing?
Not too bad. Well, I am just here tuning in to the channel, and I'm here to hear what the People's National Party president come out to saying today, because I know I'm gonna hit them for 6 again, you know.
Yes, most definitely.
Yes, them not ready yet. Them not ready yet, man.
Yeah.
Them not have a clue. Them not have a clue we're going in a modern era now, man. Them are analog.
As Colin Bell say, analog government.
Analog government. They're not ready, man.
Yeah.
They're not ready. And Jamaican people need to learn this. Remember, Michael Manley said first if we study, read and study.
True.
You know, the finance minister fully done.
Mighty God.
People can't have, listen to, when people listen to me, I understand this. A man go university and graduate with a bachelor degree or a master's degree. That not the same bright, you know. He probably can't book bright. But when it comes to the actual doing the work, he never clue to doing it.
Hands-on, yeah.
He never clue to the hands-on work. So we need a leader. We need people with vision. They can lead us and hands-on work. They can do the work and can show us, say, boy, we're ready for lead. They can show it. Up to now, neither the Prime Minister nor the Minister of Finance come out and show you how them plan to grow this country. What them plan to do in this country. Them not come out, up to now, them can't show a plan, you know. All them coming to Parliament, they just criticize what their opposition say. Yeah. You criticize that man, but yesterday you can't come with something better, and you can't show how you do your plan. Up to now, them can't show what them are doing, what them are doing. All man across their opposition, and their opposition this and their opposition that. Which is that the man them is so arrogant and foolish.
Them want people idea for use it, that them want.
But even if them get the idea, them still can't even use it because alright. Even look at even the other day when Eamon Crawford talk about feeding the school children them every a meal a day. They all bought him jump out. It can cost the country $15 trillion. If it costs the country $15 trillion, only thief $3 trillion.
My God.
So only thief $3 trillion every cost in the country, even the whole the feed the picking them. Make you feed the pick them. Me agree with feed the school picking them. But me not agree with polishing and thief for money. We can't get out for the money.
That is it. We don't want people who owe how much taxes, and all of them taxes that where them owe can feed the picking them friends and come below.
So you can't feed, as Damon nicely put it, you can't give prisoner 3 field meals a day, but you can't give school your future generation a meal a day. What can't go so?
Make it make sense.
You can't feed a prisoner 3 meals a day, but you can't feed your future generation a meal a day. What can go so?
My God. True. So true.
If we realize that them man them lack vision, them lack leadership, them lack transparency, them lack all the good deeds to be a good citizen of Jamaica. These are not citizens of Jamaica. These are not good citizens of Jamaica. Because I can tell you this. If it was a regular man doing all this, what this man did and what this man said, they were gone to prison. From the justice minister go right back down to the prime minister. Not ready yet.
My God. So the whole of them for go on.
The man them coming like a peas in a pot. No better barrel, no better herring.
My God.
If you can show me one member of the Jamaica party we have morals. Show me one of them we have morals.
My God.
None of them. Because none of them can come out and say, well, we sign the code of conduct, and with the conduct we do plan to do is that none of them have the morals. Nobody should have voted for them.
When Nesta was the minister of information, him lied to we. Said them never get no training from the IC, and then after the training they would have signed it. And 9 years now. One set a lie at them.
I look here now. Leave one of listen Nesta. Because them run go along and say them run on them CM Desmond McKenzie constituency and I show bag of garbage. And now I come say at the leader of the opposition. They're not ready yet, man.
Not ready yet.
All these people don't know what to do. It's to bribe, thief, and do all manner of evil. Up to now, you can't come out and say a straight set plan for Jamaica. Them can't so them do know them job GCT have again of agriculture, you know. So you know some more push up for a local farmer again, you know.
Yes.
These people are ready yet. These people are ready yet. If you look what the money are doing, you know, it's not going to help the lower class of people, you know.
Only a few.
Only a few of them friends and them clowns, of them alone a benefit. We can't continue in a country like this, and I hope Jamaica people realize, I'm going to say it again, I always say a couple of show. Jamaican people, seek knowledge, educate yourself. Don't sell out your pitney, your grand pitney, your great grand pitney future.
True.
These men don't have no future plan for us. Yeah, when Dalva said, he's going to go on 5 more years in pitney and grand pitney. Not for Jamaicans, you know. In grand pitney and in pitney. So, big sense out of nonsense. These men are not here for us. Stop selling up what?
And the chairman come now after 9 years and tell we say this term are for the people. So who was the first 2 terms for?
For them full them cry.
For them full them cry. Mighty God.
So they must say, I know what you say, you know. I feel them word that, you know.
For them words, yeah?
I feel them word, you know.
Definitely.
I feel them word, you know. Country can't continue on so man. People, stop selling vote.
Definitely. Do the right thing.
Put Jamaica first. As Mark Wallen said, Jamaica is not for PMP nor JLP. Jamaica is for Jamaican. And that is my 2 cents.
All right. Then thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling. I think they're about to start or they have started. So I'm going to try to head on over. Waiting for them to start. The other person that was trying to call, you still want to call in to give your 2 cents before the press conference starts? We're still waiting for them to start. I'm not seeing anything from my end on their platform, so I'm waiting. But as the caller stated, read and get on yourselves abreast with what's going on. I've seen some of y'all saying thank God for social media, and definitely we have to. Social media they use back in those times to win over the people. And so the social media warriors have to keep the people enlightened with the truth. They're saying it's a battle for the truth. And as I always stated, that the truth is the original information and the truth needs no proof. So when you see them run out, you can do your own research too and fact check them. Don't sit down and make them cloud on the mind and try to win over on the mind. Them say it's a battle for the mind as well. I mean, I understand why them are trying to control the people in mind. You understand? I don't know. But so they say. They say it's a battle for the mind. Alright, seems like it's about to start right now. Let me refresh this. It's on standby, we're still waiting. In the meantime, also, ABR family and viewers, make sure say when you roll out to the friends and the families, them get them on the voters list. It will close off on, I believe, Monday coming. So, on a time for play and a time for lay. Get on the friends and the families on the voters list so they can make on the mark in this election to come. Let me set up this a little better so they can see everything. Joan says, JLP supporters, it is not about the color. It's about saving Jamaica. A very solid message right there. Definitely so. You know, some of them only see colors, you know. And everything they want to politicize. And it shouldn't be that way. Shouldn't be any at all. But we're on standby still. Anybody else want to call in? I seen someone was calling a while ago. If you still want to call, drop your 2 cents. We're still waiting for the press conference to begin. Anybody want to share their 2 cents before the press conference begins? The number is pinned at the top of the chat. Feel free to call in. Don't be afraid. We're here to enlighten each other, teach each other, learn from each other. I'm not going to know everything. You're not going to know everything. So when we share information and we share whatever we know, it goes a long way. Delroy says fluvial. That's what you call her? Fluvial budget debate. What? Fluvial. So yeah, big up Fluvial. Yeah, big up Faval and you not even know her name. My God. Bancroft said prison term loading. But what do y'all think before them chime in? What do y'all think about the Secretary of the State heading into Jamaica, I believe, today? Bless up yourself, Anthony R. Big up to all of the moderators and to all the members of the ABR membership. All right. Well, they are here. I'm not getting any sound from my end. I don't know what's going on. Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the post-budget press conference of the People's National Party. Welcome to members of the media, those who are present here with us in person and those who are online, and to also other persons who are watching online. Today is a good day indeed. The Jamaican people have been suffering for a prolonged period of time, and there are a set of proposals that have been put forward to lessen the burden on the people of this country. And whereas some are opposed to those proposals because they did not conceptualize them, we have a competent team here today that will go through the proposals, cost them, and show you how they will be funded so we can ease the burden on the Jamaican people. First up will be the leader of the party and the next Prime Minister of Jamaica, Mark Golding. Please make him welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Campbell. Greetings to everybody who is here, all members of the media, those who are watching online. It's indeed a pleasure to be with you today. So, in the just concluded budget debate, the opposition, People's National Party, through our spokesperson for finance, Julian Robinson, and myself, put forward our vision for the first term of office of the next PNP government. We took the opportunity to lay out some of our proposals as to how to make Jamaica a better place for all, to encourage economic growth, moving from the stagnation, which has been a feature of this government's management of the economy, moving to higher levels of growth that can create more wealth for our people, can create more fiscal space for social investments and for infrastructure investments and so on. In the closing of the budget debate, the Minister of Finance attempted some political gimmickry to portray the proposals that we've made as being somehow not lacking credibility or being irresponsible and so on. Nothing could be further from the truth. We have gone through our proposals with care and attention and diligence. We've used the available data from the sources that are publicly known, the budget books and the fiscal policy paper and other instruments that have been tabled with the budget and other available information to analyze the costing of our proposals and how we would be able to pay for them. The ministers tried to make out that what we were proposing in our presentations was an implied budget. That is not what we were doing. and we never said that we were doing that. We were putting forward our policy commitments for the first term, and the term of office is up to 5 years while we are in government. Clearly, the phasing of our proposals will take into account the fiscal rules, the priorities that we have, and the situations that unfold and affect the economy going forward. I reiterate that we are very committed to fiscally prudent management of the economy. Indeed, the fiscal rules that have guided the debt reduction over the last over 10 years are a result of the work that we did when we were last in government and were legislated by us during that time. And those rules have guided the entire process of budgeting over the period since, and the surpluses that needed to be driven so that we could bring down the national debt to where it is now at a roughly 69% of GDP. But everyone, I think, accepts that having managed to grapple with the debt monster and tame it and bring it under control, we need to now pivot. We need to now move forward in a new way so that we can start to take the economy in a direction that can deliver for the Jamaican people and provide solutions to the deep problems that we face. And that is what our program is designed to do. So the question is, how is it to be funded? As you will see in the course of this press conference, we have come up with a series of ideas, some of which would be paid for out of the budget in each year going forward, some of which would be paid for by the agencies which have the responsibility for those particular items. And the totality of the budget cost of our proposals based on our estimates is $23 billion annually. And that would be assuming that everything was rolled out from day one. And that does not include the 11.4 billion, which the law has as ending, the extraction of 11.4 billion from NHT, which the law has ending at the end of this coming fiscal year. So the year ending March 2026 is by law currently the last year that these extraction of resources and your extraction of resources from NHT is allowed and authorized. So we have assumed that that will not be extended, and in any event, we do not intend to extend it. The government hasn't said what their position on that is, but the society as a whole, I believe, is not in favor of any further extraction of resources from the NHT to fund the budget. So we will be putting an end to that. So how will we pay for the $23 billion of expenditure that our programs aggregate to, and stopping the annual extraction of 11.4 billion from the NHT? First of all, as I've said, we have to comply with the fiscal rules, and the phasing and timing of the implementation of our proposals will be subject to compliance with those things. But it's very important to understand, first of all, that in this year's budget, which is roughly $1.27 trillion, there is $360 billion of what is described as discretionary expenditure. That is expenditure that is decided on by the political directorate based on their priorities, and is separate from interest payments, which are always have to be provided for in the budget by the Constitution, and also salaries of public sector workers. So that $360 billion represents the issues that this government has over time decided are important for the nation. Now, nobody would expect an incoming government of the PNP, having been voted in on a mandate to deliver the change that we are bringing to the society, to just follow the priorities of the government that would have been voted out to give us, to put us into office. So clearly, that $360 billion will be reconfigured, and we will go through it very carefully, line by line, to decide what programs we will keep, what programs we will scale down, what programs we might discontinue altogether, what programs we might defer, so as to create room for the $23 billion that we want to roll out of that $360 billion. Secondly, it is important to note that as this document here shows, which is the government of Jamaica's fiscal policy paper, which is tabled nowadays with each budget, that was part of the transformational fiscal regime that we implemented when we were in office last, which requires this to be done. It has projections in it. And those projections show what the government is anticipating: the revenues, expenditures, debt, inflation, all of the important parameters that affect the economy and affect the public financing, how those will be projected for the next 4 years going forward. In this document, they are projecting increasing revenues by about $240 billion over the next 4 years, just by virtue of nominal inflation, prices moving over time. Jamaica now our tax system is heavily weighted towards indirect taxation, which is a taxation on the value of goods and services, either imported or sold within the economy. So that 240 area or $1 billion of additional or new expenditure that we would need to fund. And furthermore, I was looking at the projections again today. And if you look at the expenditure projections from 25-26, which is the coming fiscal year, and going forward, and you were to inflate the expenditure projections for the coming year by the projected rate of inflation, which is 5%, and you take and you inflate that other than interest, which is not subject to inflation, and you just use the projected interest numbers, you will see that there's $36 billion of additional expenditure for the following fiscal year, over and above the increases that of 5% on what is being projected for this year, which is more than the coverage that we need to fund our $22 billion. So this whole nonsense, I can only call it nonsense, that our proposals are not credible, that our proposals cannot be financed, this idea of a FinSAC, which is just a bogeyman being raised by the Minister of Finance for political purposes, that is all nonsense, not Nogoso. Our plans are credible, and we will ensure that the fiscal rules are complied with. So I'm going to now go through the specific measures that we have outlined in our budget presentation and how we have costed them. I will take some of those. I will ask Damien Crawford, our Shadow Minister for Education, to speak to those that are specific to his portfolio. Julian will speak to some as well. So if I could have the next slide, please. We will begin with the first, which is the 1 meal per student per day. And I will ask Damien to speak to that.
Thank you very much, Leader. I thank you for the opportunity to participate in this press conference, and a special good morning to those who are listening and the journalists who are present and online. We, as a People's National Party, has proposed verbatim that we would have 1 meal per needy child in school. It is confusing to us that the Minister of Finance, the past Minister of Education, would posit that that number of needy children would be 400,000, when currently they propose to feed 167,000 children. So the Minister of Education, former Minister of Education, have already stated that she believes that over 200,000 needy children would not be fed under their current policies. However, we feel that the cost per meal should not be $280 per child, as is currently being provided, but instead $400 per child. These $280 have long been stated by principals and other practitioners within education to be insufficient to feed the children. Many have caused for ask for another $100 from the children, and some have reduced the number of days that they have been able to feed the children. So we propose a $400 per meal for primary and secondary school children. The number of days in the school year, which we all know and agree, is 190 days in the year. Percentage of children needing meals was estimated at 56% of children needing meals. This is based on the recent survey that suggested that severe or moderate food insecurity was 55.6%. So we carried that 56% of our people are within that space. The total number of children we have in school is 440,000. Therefore, the number of children in need of meals will be 246,400. The total cost of the proposal, therefore, multiplying 246,400 by 190 days for $400 is $18.7 billion. However, the book that everyone seems to be most concerned about has a current school feeding budget of $8.98 billion. So the additional would be approximately $9.9 billion. So $9.7 billion. So therefore, the additional that we will need to find to adequately feed the 56% of children that research has shown is likely to have difficulties in eating meals are going to be $9 billion. And again, we ask for the Jamaicans to recognize that the minister in her proposal, in her suggestion, suggests that 400,000 children are in need, of which they have made a budget to feed only 170,000, less than 170,000, leaving the other 230,000 to be sacrificed by the Jamaica Labour Party. The other proposal that we put forward is an estimate of cost for tertiary education. It is the policy objective of the People's National Party to have 1 degree per household or its equivalent. It is important that we highlight a level 4 vocation is equivalent to a degree. Within that, to facilitate that policy objective, we like to do a first in the family scholarship, meaning that the first person within a household that matriculates to the university will receive a scholarship. Ridiculously, and is ludicrous a word, but yes, quite ludicrous. The minister seemed to assume that all children in a particular age cohort will matriculate to the university, while it was her mismanagement of education that has caused for only 18% to matriculate. So while we would have hoped that all would be able to matriculate, her lack of activity and change within the ministry has caused for only 18% of our children to currently matriculate to the university. This will be something that we will target moving forward as well. However, we have to use our current circumstances for our current budget. Therefore, of the 36,000 children within the age cohort, only 18% are currently matriculating. We also have organized to assume what is the percentage of children are matriculating that will be the first in the family. Again, another feature of our society is that the vast majority of those performing at the secondary level, matriculating to university, are of the upper echelons of society and from families that already have a degree within that family. And so we assume 1 in every 4 person matriculating to the university, or 25%, will be first in the family. Again, another reality that we will target as the People's National Party, and that we have been targeting. Indeed, whenever there is a proposal, a plan for the movement of these people, the JLP has always sought to suggest that these are bad policy plans. They said the same about Michael Manley. They said the same about PJ Patterson led government. Indeed, I wonder how can it be posited that a government of PJ Patterson that moved tertiary access from 6% to 19% could be perceived to be a bad government of any sort in any country. Notwithstanding, our average annual cost per student is $600,000. We are very wary of a Minister of Finance that is refusing to do research, because if you call the universities, MICO, for example, less than 400,000, the teachers' colleges, UTech, less than 600,000, and many UWI degrees is less than 600,000. Where would she find that the average cost of education is 900,000 is beyond me. And it is likely, therefore, that the same 18% might be the targets we achieve, might be 18% of those targets. Can you just see? So when we do that total, the number of students in the 4 years of university at any given time for the first in the family would be approximately 6,480 students in years 1, 2, 3, 4 combined. The total annual cost of all first-generation students across the year cohorts, therefore, is approximately $3.9 billion, and not $31 billion has been posited by the minister in her false accusations. The estimate for the RIDE program, again, This is a program that we have posited. The Prime Minister have chosen to seek a response. A very different program, which we'll expound upon in future conversations, but not just the provision in 2 or 3 parishes and whoever get the bus, but instead a targeted approach of 20,000 students with demonstrating need. Initially, we'll target those who are most in need and scale up as a fiscal space allow to those who may be currently less in need, but still would desire to have that assistance. So the current program that the government have is targeting 7,500 students. No wonder we have persisted to have an absenteeism ratio of approximately 24% in Jamaica. Chronic absenteeism is stated to be 10%. So Jamaica in its entirety is operating under chronic absenteeism. To help to fix that, we will target transportation, especially because we embrace school choice within this society. The subsidy is up to $2,500 per week, depending on the cost of travel, and each student gets the benefit of up to this amount. 38 weeks for school per year. The initial annual cost, therefore, will be $1.9 billion. Of course, we would subtract from that what they currently have allocated for the 7,500, as they will be incorporated in this 20,000 persons. Thank you very much. And I think that we have satisfactorily stated that education is the hallmark of the People's National Party.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Damien. So there you have it. We've costed our meal program, 1 meal per student per day. The RIDE program providing a subsidy up to $2,500 per week for 20,000 students, and the First in Family scholarships, which would reach over 6,000 students, and we've costed all of that out with the data that we have. I now move to agriculture. We have a proposal to establish an agricultural development fund, and we have looked at the average annual food import taxes levied, and we've applied a percentage to that, and we've arrived at a 2.5 billion annual amount, which is really from the existing tax base that we would specifically earmark for this agricultural development fund to give our farmers the support they need to be productive, to move forward. And that is within the envelope that we are able to fund, as I've said. I should mention that yesterday in Parliament, the government brought a bill to amend the GCT Act to remove GCT from food imports of fresh produce, vegetables and meats. And it was the intervention of the opposition that caused the government to suspend debate on that bill. And that, is important to note, because when that GCT is removed from those imports, any of those goods that compete with local domestic farmers are going to be have an advantage which they don't currently have now, and make life even harder for our farmers to survive. Next slide, please. Small businesses. I'm going to ask Julian to speak to this.
Thank you very much. We proposed a waiver of corporate income tax for new MSMEs that are establishing for the first 3 years. And we propose that we have made an allocation of $1 billion for this. If we got data from the Companies Office of Jamaica to look at the number of MSMEs, a number of companies that are established each year, and that is in the region of about 5,000 new companies per year on average over the last 3 years. Now, not every single company is going to pay taxes initially in their first year or necessarily make a profit. But we made an assumption that, let's say, 60% of them would actually make a profit. Based on that, we have also done a calculation of what that profit would look like. And so the loss or the impact on the Treasury for offering that tax waiver for 1 year is $1 billion. Nowhere near the $11 billion that the minister has announced. And I want to remind the country why we're doing this. Jamaica has a very high level of informality in our business sector, mainly because businesses stay outside the formal system to avoid paying tax. We want them in the formal system because even though you're not paying corporate income tax, when you're in the formal system, you'll be contributing to GCT, you're employing people, your payroll tax. There are a number of other benefits to companies coming into that formal system. And we believe this incentive is important to encourage businesses, MSMEs, to come into the formal system. So based on our calculation, looking at the history of the compliance and also taking into account that businesses get a $375,000 income tax credit every single year. So if, for example, let me use a simple example. Let's say your profits are $5 million, right? Or 25%. No, your profits are $500,000. You pay 25% of that. That's $125,000. So you will already have a credit from the corporate income tax. So the figures presented by the minister are nowhere near accurate in terms of what that revenue give up would be.
Before I move to the next slide, Jules, can I just make one point on this? On this issue, I just want to make one point. The minister clearly had a probox moment on this issue, because when she's projecting that the measure to give a 3-year tax holiday for newly formed MSMEs would cost over $11 billion per year. What that suggests is that the newly formed SMEs are making profits of over $40 billion a year. Now that's more than the profits of the entire financial sector. Come on, Minister, stop misleading the public. Yeah.
I want to go next to a sector that has allowed Jamaica to punch above its weight. We have said we're going to put aside $1 billion for a cultural and creative industry fund. We know that there's a fund for filmmakers, but there are so many other subsectors that are not accounted for. There are people who sing, there are people who dance, there are painters, there are musicians, there are artists, there are the full gamut. We have said we're going to provide this fund to enable them to grow their businesses. Many of them are in export-led businesses. They're providing a service, but they are creative, but they don't necessarily have the financial backing to expand the business in the way that we believe is important to facilitate export-led growth. So we are allocating $1 billion, and we're going to work with using the DBJ as the main entity to disburse the funds to facilitate the creation of business plans. We provide the technical assistance as well so that these individuals can grow. That's a commitment of our party. We have seen where our cultural icons have put Jamaica on the map, whether it is in sport, it's in music, and we are committed to supporting that sector even further. Now, the asset tax, again, I think this was a probox moment of the minister, but I want to explain the thinking behind the phasing out of the asset tax. I said 3 things in my budget presentation. First, that we would make access to government deposits competitive versus a system now where the 2 big banks get the majority of it. The second thing I said, I would phase out the asset tax over a 5-year period. Now, if you phase something out over a 5-year period, it means that each year you're taking 1/5 of that take each year. So the minister presented $8 billion yesterday that we would be giving back. In fact, the opposition leader stood on a point of order. We never said that. We said over 5 years, and we were deliberate. We knew that we could not absorb the entire amount of the asset tax in 1 year. And what we have said, by phasing it out, it will make banks more competitive, and it will reduce the cost of banking services and fees to the customer. The government has done nothing about this in 9 years. It has done nothing about this. And we believe this is important for competitiveness in the banking and financial services industry, and also for individuals who go to ATMs, use their bank cards, and have to deal with the level of fees that they absorb. So this figure of $8 billion is a mystery to me. I can say it is only consistent with the probox moment, where she believes that saving $2,000 a month for 3 years can make a deposit. It is fantasy, and it's actually ludicrous that a Minister of Finance could stand up in Parliament and make such false and deliberately inaccurate and misleading statement. She has said nothing about what the government plans to do to make the banking sector more competitive. In fact, when Jackson brought the bill, we knew which side they stood on. They voted it down. We are committed to bringing back that bill and passing it, because you cannot have a sector in the country where, when every other sector is not doing well, only one sector is, which is banking and financial services, We have to make it more competitive and consistent with the other sectors and aligned with the other sectors.
Right. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Julian. We move now to energy. The government has very late in the day finally acceded to something that we have been calling for a long time, which is to put some funding behind allowing families that currently are not lawful customers of the grid, of JPS, but want to become lawful so that they can have proof of address, so they're no longer at risk of being prosecuted, so that the fire risks inherent in having houses that are properly wired, all of that can be dealt with. They've allocated $1 billion in the budget for that. We have said we think that's insufficient because that can only reach 20,000 households, and our estimation is that there are actually around 3,000 households that are not currently customers of JPS. We would start by adding another $1 billion to that exercise, and as fiscal space opens up, we will also look to ramp that up further. Next slide, please. So, if you add up all of the measures that we have proposed, which are charges on the budget, with all the slides we went through, the total for that is $22.6 billion. And if you round that up for conservative purposes, that's $23 billion. It's the aggregate cost of the budget of the measures that we have outlined. And that is out of a budget currently of $1.27 trillion. And therefore, a percentage of only 1.8% of the total budget to do with all these things that we think are important to help Jamaican people move forward, to help our children get a better education, to allow farmers to progress, to allow businesses to be formed and to get going, to help to drive the economy, better energy policy, etc., etc. But there are some other things in our proposals which are important and that we will speak to. As I've said, there's $360 billion of discretionary expenditure in the coming year's budget. The percentage reallocation of discretionary expenditure to fund the proposals that we have put forward is a 6.4%. And as I've said, even if you look at their projections, there's $36 billion of funding in expenditure if you gross up this coming year's expenditure other than the interest for inflation, applying the 5% projection, what you get is they're projecting additional expenditure over that of $36 billion, and we're talking about $23 billion plus the NHT, $34 billion. So there we go. And of course, the $11.4 billion is already in the budget for the current year and wouldn't have to be funded for the current year, the removal of it. But thereafter, it will have to be funded. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I've said earlier, we will deal with the NHT revenue that we'll be giving up by giving up the $11.4 billion out of the incremental growth of revenues that is projected in the fiscal policy paper itself, $240 billion of additional revenue with no new tax measures over the next 4 years. Thank you. Next slide. We have some other proposals that we want to speak to. So as Julian, in his presentation, said that we want to have a special deal for our senior citizens when it comes to their water rates. We want to provide them with a flat rate. How do we do that? Simply put, we will look at their past consumption, we will average the last 3 years, and as long as it appears normal and that there were no leaks and so on, we will work out what their average consumption has been. We will apply the normal rate to that and then give them a discount, and that will be their flat rate. And we will monitor that as we go along to make sure it achieves our policy objective. Next item is the matching grant to businesses for training. That will be funded out of the HART NSTA, which is a strong body that gets on every month, it gets flows coming in from employers, contributing to it, so it has solid resources and it can afford to do this matching program out of its resources without being a charge on the budget. The employment tax credit, this is an important thing because this is an incentive for employers to bring persons who are on contract work, informal forms of employment, which is an abusive measure as used by some employers, not all. We want to encourage them to bring those workers into formal employment so the workers get their full range of benefits that were hard-won over in the past, and many of those benefits were created for them by the People's National Party, and we want them to enjoy those benefits. So the employment tax credit, we're proposing to move that from 30%, which is where it was when we introduced it back in the last PNP government, to 40%. We anticipate that to be a revenue positive measure, not a cost of the budget. Next slide, please, and I'll explain why. First of all, it will boost tax compliance by companies, which has been the experience so far with the ETC, the Employment Tax Credit. And by formalizing employment, it will also bring more employee-related revenue to the government. When the ETC was introduced 10 years ago, a significant growth in corporate taxes were experienced as a result of that tax incentive. It's one of the things that from time to time one has to point out, that actually a properly designed tax incentive can in fact increase revenue by changing behavior in ways that generate more revenue. And we anticipate that that will be the case with this ETC measure. And we want to give the employers this incentive because we want to regularize employment across Jamaica. So we don't have so many workers in Jamaica not getting the benefits that are intended for them, leave with pay, etc., etc. And the other one, of course, is the deposit fund for young people up to 35 years old who want to buy a house but can't afford a deposit. The $1 billion that's allocated for that, so they can get grants towards their deposits of up to $500,000. And that will be funded out of the NHT itself. That will not be a charge on the budget. And of course, by discontinuing the extraction of resources from the NHT of $11.4 billion a year, the NHT will have significant additional resources to do all the various things that we have in mind for the NHT, many of which I pointed out in my budget presentation. That's it, I think. Yes, and then I have some closing remarks.
The minister announced yesterday that the DBJ would review and reform the way it provides loans to the MSME sector. Now, we made a commitment that we would back end all of the fees that MSMEs have been required to pay upfront. For example, if you were taking out a $10 million loan, MSMEs were required to pay $500,000 upfront. That was an inhibitor to persons accessing financing. Now, 9 years into the tenure of this government, just a simple adjustment. And what does that say? Have they been listening to the business sector for 9 years? The MSME sector has been calling for this adjustment. It costs the government nothing. You know how many times we sit at Standing Finance and we see monies that have been sent to the DBJ coming back unused because people can't access it because of the onerous conditions. So belatedly, after pressure from our commitment and from the sector, 9 years later, this government has decided to make this adjustment. Is 9 years too late? Can you imagine how many businesses could have accessed funding to grow, to pay more taxes, to build more products and services and make the economy improve? And you wait 9 years to do this? They're not ready. Them just not ready.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Julian. Well said. So, 23 billion of tax measures and the elimination of the extraction of resources from the NHT to fund the budget, totaling 23 billion plus 11.4, 34 billion. Incidentally, if that could ruin the economy, let's look at the 1.5 that they introduced in 2016, which cost $32 billion and which they've held up as a great achievement. They didn't misrepresent it when they presented it to the country in that election because they said it wouldn't cost anything. It ended up costing $32 billion, which they had to impose taxes to pay for that 1.5. So when you look at our measures, it's comparable in amount. It will not have any ruinous effect. To the contrary, it's going to push the country towards growth. It's going to push the country towards social cohesion, a better Jamaica, and it will pay for itself. We're being very conservative in looking at this because we haven't assumed any growth in excess of what's projected, the 1%, the measly 1% per annum growth that they are projecting for the next 4 years in their fiscal policy paper. So the message is simple. The government that we have is one of gimmicks. It's one of misrepresentations. It's one of alarmists. Instead of taking the time to focus on what they could do for the people and how to make the budget work for the people, they again wanted to score headlines at the expense of the people. The PNP is about balancing budgets, yes, and balancing lives too. Unlike the current administration, we delivered plans with people at the center, not gimmicks, and we haven't regurgitated empty promises of the past. They are a government that has made promises which they haven't kept. No fixed term elections, no grand referendum on issues to do with all sorts of issues that they had promised, etc., etc. Our priorities are the people's priorities: a solid education, decent health care, a nutritious meal for our children, and an affordable way for them to get to school. A piece of the rock to own and make your castle. A good paying job where you're treated with dignity, and a livable wage to ensure that families can get by. That's who our presentation in the budget was created for, while the government's was a sideshow to create division and spread misinformation. We will continue to put the people first and champion the change that Jamaica is crying out for. Time come. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks much, gentlemen. Members of the media, if you do have a question or questions, please indicate, identify yourself, your media house, and go ahead with the question.
Yeah, I'll go first. Right. Yeah, man, good afternoon. Man, it's Dwayne Anderson from PCJ.
Yes.
I have one question for, should I go ahead and ask both questions? I have two. Should I go ahead and ask both, or just ask one?
The same individual?
No, one for Damien and one for...
One at a time, then.
All right, so let's start, Mr. Golding. Good afternoon again, Mr. Golding. I've noted that you or the party hasn't said a thing about the income tax threshold. I remember about 2 years ago, or about 18 months ago, you mentioned that your party would be interested in increasing the threshold, the income tax threshold, about $3 million. I've heard a lot about that. What happened to that policy plan?
Well, it's under review. At this time, there have been some increases in the threshold, and we've seen the costings of it. Some of these things, when you don't have access to all of the information that the government has with the Ministry of Finance and literally a few thousand technocrats supporting their work. We don't have access to that. So we're anticipating further increases over time, but that's not part of the presentation that we made because it's already underway and we are comfortable with that, but we'll keep it under review.
All right, thank you. Damien, you've often spoken about the benefits of a more educated population to the fight against crime and increase in quality of life for Jamaicans. Just listening to your numbers you outlined just now, about 6,000 people would benefit from this degree per household program. Is that significant enough over 3-4 years to achieve the transformation you're looking for?
Okay, well, first of all, that 6,000 persons would be in years 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the university, not over 4 years of the budget. So that 6,000 will be benefiting in year 1. There'll be some who will graduate and then others that will come in. Now, what are the benefits of a degree? The first reality is that many of the maladies of our society doesn't exist in households with degrees. Households with degrees are less likely to have persons with illiteracy within them. Households with degrees are less likely to have persons with malnutrition within them. Houses with degree are less likely to have persons participating in criminal activity, especially murder within them. Houses with degrees are less likely to have insufficient housing and inaccess to health care because of cost. And so therefore, if within our first 5 years, we can get graduating almost, that will be 10, 12,000 graduates, and in line, another 15,000 persons coming forward, it would have been a massive achievement in our first 5 years. Now, if you should understand that a country is a going concern, my life is not the limit of our country, then it means that within 20 years, what change would that have made? And had we started this in 2000, then we would have already achieved it. So is it sufficient to immediately transform the society? No. It is sufficient to immediately transform 6,000 households, which will have about 4 persons per household. And therefore, we believe that this is a necessary thing that no government with the interests of the people could criticize. And that is something we are going to immediately implement as soon as we get power. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Siobhan.
Shimon Campbell, Nationwide News. Just two questions to, I believe it was Damien who brought up the matter of the school feeding program, so I suppose I'll be putting that to you. Has the costing for that, I noticed you used the unit cost for food, you said $480 to feed an individual. Does that factor in the logistics and administrative costs as well? And further, why not simply just expand the PATH program school feeding rather than create an entirely new initiative to save the potential administrative and other costs attached?
All right. We haven't seen how this our new system. However, current $180 per meal considered all costs including transportation. I don't believe each school is growing for race. So by extension, it would consider all of those costs. So what we have done, first of all, is to increase the number of persons that benefit exponentially. I think a reasonable question is, why is the Ministry of Education currently not feeding the 400,000 that the Minister of Finance suggests are in need? The second reality is that we have exponentially increased the number of children that are going to benefit. And we will create all the necessary steps and programs that will make it be the most efficient and the least thievery. We know, as a matter of reminder to the nation, that the government of Jamaica had many who participated in the robbery of nutritional products, which is a school feeding program for our children. So what we have seen, first of all, is discrimination, where PATH program children are being put in a different line, having a different food, and feeling as if they are inadequate as people. We'll end that with immediate effect by having a nutritious meal of the same type to all our children that are going to be available. So is it going to be an expansion of this current strategy? We'll have to review all the systems that they have in place. We may have a different strategy. What we know is that it will be better, it will be further, and it will be more inefficient and much more nutritious. I can guarantee that as well.
Efficient.
100% more efficient.
More inefficient.
More efficient, more effective, more nutritious, more children, and more value. Thank you very much.
Then to you, Mr. Golding, the people were now wondering, why was this costing not added into your budget presentation as part of that budget exercise? Because as understood, it is a budget debate presentation. So why is this costing now coming to the people rather than during the actual budget debates?
The presentation I made was quite comprehensive. It covered a lot of different things. There were other areas that I would want to touch on, which I didn't want to make it too long. The Prime Minister spoke for nearly 5 hours, I think. I didn't think that was appropriate. So, we didn't put in costings because we didn't feel that was necessary in the presentation itself. We weren't producing a budget. This is what I think is very important. The Minister said it was an implied budget we were presenting. That's not the case. We are presenting our policy priorities for our first term in office. We know how to, we have costed them, as we've explained today, how they break down. 23 billion is our estimate for all of the things that we have put forward as a charge to the budget. Some of the other things will be paid for by the public bodies which relate to those things. And then there's the NHT, which we're going to stop the extraction of resources from. The government has not said the cost of the capital allowances, which was one of the revenue measures that the minister announced in her budget presentation. She has said that land and buildings and equipment for companies, they're going to get an accelerated capital allowance. There was no costing attached to that in her numbers. That is very irresponsible. We don't know what that's going to cost. Nobody has said a word about it. I'd love Nationwide to raise that. Issue an article, and you can use what I just said in it, so that your many clientele who would listen to you would be happy to hear that, I'm sure. Not so many, but no doubt loyal to you. So yes, that's the answer. We've decided to present it separately as part of in this press conference, only because of the malign and inaccurate comments made by the minister yesterday in her closing of the presentation. We are in opposition, and we put forward ideas and proposals, and we cost them with the benefit of the information available to us, which of course is significantly more limited than what's available to a government. But because of the transparency of the fiscal rules and the fiscal responsibility framework, which we put in place, we at least have revenue estimates, which we never used to have, a fiscal policy paper with projections, which the minister has to sign off on. So she can't tell me that she never meant what she said in here. She signed it. So that is what we have been using in order to deliver the costing of our proposals.
Deliver.
Yes. But someone asked one of my questions, so I'll only ask one. You said yesterday in Parliament that what you presented, the proposals that you presented, are programs that are going to be implemented over the life of our People's National Party government.
Yeah.
Can you tell the people of Jamaica what programs you intend to implement in year 1, year 2 going forward? Just kind of give us an idea of what are you going to prioritize year 1 and
yes, so based on the budget as presented by the government, which is going to be the budget that we inherit when we form government, that budget is already going to be in effect because it will be passed on Friday in the Senate and the next fiscal year starts next week, Tuesday. So it will be the budget that we have to work within initially. But when we enter and we are rolling out our programs, we will, based on the numbers that we have seen, we anticipate being able to implement all of them initially. If, for example, there is a hurricane or something has happened that has thrown out the projections, we will have to make adjustments accordingly. But based on what's in the fiscal policy paper, we anticipate being able to do it. If we recognize at that time that we can't do all 23 plus the 11.4 in the first year of our tenure, then the things that we would be prioritizing are the things that we feel would have the biggest impact on economic growth. Reason being because economic growth is going to generate more fiscal space to pay for everything else. So things like helping the farmers, that would be critical. Things like the First in Family program, that would be important too because we want more students to be encouraged. Our Student Loan Bureau changes, for example, the MSME policy. By the way, the MSME policy is not a fiscal cost because these are businesses that don't currently exist. They're not paying any tax now. By giving them an exemption for 3 years, we're not taking it's not going to be losing any current revenue. I think that's been overlooked by people. Not to mention the probox moment and the madness of saying it's $11 billion a year.
Okay. So Mr. Golding, just to follow up on that question asked, and you pointed out that obviously your priorities will not be the same as the government currently in power, and certainly there's things that you don't have access to in terms of information, but clearly you should, as you see in opposition, see areas where the government has put their priorities that you feel can be deprioritized to implement your programs. What would be those areas?
I don't want to comment on that now because we have to look at every line item when we come into office carefully. And there are some things that we may defer. There are some things that we may accelerate. There are some things that we may discontinue. And I don't want to attempt to foreshadow that yet, but I'm confident that we can find the 6.4% of the 360 billion to pay for what we have come up with. And as I've said, based on the fiscal policy paper, that doesn't even seem like it's going to be necessary anyway.
Finally, from me, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister hammered home this matter of what FinSAC did in terms of the impact on the country's debt and your potential role in that debacle in the 1990s. Do you accept that narrative as put forward? And do you feel that FinSAC, as it played out in the 1990s, was damaging to the Jamaican economy?
What has been a real waste of expenditure is over $100 million that the government spent on a commission of inquiry, which has not delivered a report. That's a scandal. Over $100 million spent on getting the facts as to what took place, and they have not published a report. FinSAC ensured that in a crisis in the financial sector, depositors didn't lose any money. Pensioners didn't lose any money. Persons who had insurance didn't lose any money. That was the purpose of FinSAC. And yes, it cost the country quite a lot of money, and we took time to work our way out of that. We're now at 68% debt to GDP ratio. That era is long gone. I had no role in FinSat whatsoever. I was in the private sector there. I was an attorney at law, and I was involved in business as well. So, you know, that was an environment we all had to navigate who were in the sector at that time, and we did it skillfully enough that we never had to ask FinSat for any support. Thank you.
Yeah, one final question.
Graham, just before you go, I'm wondering if Nationwide would ask the Prime Minister
Come
how
on, dear
is it
Tanya.
that he can explain how other people got riches,
Yes, man.
but he's unable to explain his own riches according to the Integrity Commission.
Same, sir.
Dwayne?
Yeah, thanks, Dayton. One final question, Mr. Golding, and I hope you crave indulgence because it's not quite related to the budget, but it could be related to the budget depending on how we trade in relations to our diplomatic relationship with the United States. As you know, Mr. Rubio is in Jamaica. What particular area you want the Prime Minister and indeed regional leaders to discuss with Mr. Rubio today and into tomorrow?
I think that in dealing with these matters, it's good to put forward a united position as CARICOM. You know, I think the nations of CARICOM together have significant voting power in international and regional bodies. So I'm in favor of CARICOM having a joint position rather than Jamaica or any other member of CARICOM going alone. Issues to do with immigration, issues to do with energy policy, etc., etc. And there's only one government at a time in power. You know, and right now the Jamaica Labour Party are in power. I think they're meeting with Mr. Rubio today, the Prime Minister, and we'll see what comes out of that. But my preference on these matters is that there's a united CARICOM position so that the US knows what the region feels about these things and we can work out solutions that are win-win. We want to have win-win solutions. Jamaica has many, many people living in the United States. We're reliant on remittances from there and other countries, etc. Travel advisories can be damaging to our tourism industry. So we have to be respectful and sensible and strategic in how we approach these matters. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to close by saying that after 9 years in office and only 18% of our students passing 5 subjects to include math and English, we now hear the government talking about choosing Jamaica. After 9 years in office and 55% of the population unable to feed themselves properly, they're now speaking about choosing Jamaica. After 9 years in office and 70% increase in the import bill of food items into the country, they're now speaking about choosing Jamaica. After 9 years in office and giving themselves 300% and offering impecunious returns to the minimum wage earners, they are now speaking about choosing Jamaica. Well, the people of Jamaica have decided that they are choosing change. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.
What a presentation, ABR family. What a presentation. I am about to close off this live right now. Coming back with some more uploads and updates. Thanks for the continued support from each and every one. Anybody wants to chime in on this? Blessed morning, family, you're live on the ABR show.
Yeah, I just really appreciate you. I love you from day one.
Respect.
And I want you to know that you are doing a fantastic job. You're an adult for the press.
Definitely.
And as a citizen of Jamaica, I never vote yes. But I have made up my mind to vote. I live in Portmore. This is the most corrupted government I've ever seen.
My God.
I'm 44 years old, and my daughter, everyone is coming out to vote. We have to get rid of this man.
Definitely.
Right? And spin doctor nationwide. We just hear them. We don't hear them say nothing at all. Sister, don't worry yourself, man. As in call it in God.
Yes, man.
I can't tell you that because I've been on the road and everywhere you go, the same thing people say. You have some people just silent and then nah say nothing. Them just wait till them call it. You have some people nah say nothing. I know more people, them nah say nothing. Them just wait and several Jamaicans them just a wait. I know after 3 days that day, I think I hear the people them are cussing me and the bus probox. I don't say a word, man. That tell us I'm gone.
So yeah, say time come.
Yeah, man, him gone, man. Him know. That's why I'm afraid to call it. Him gone.
My God.
Me can't tell us him gone. Him know. If he say me know, him have people on the ground. I feed him and I tell him.
Him know.
There's a certain area that with them have where I gotta tell you, he's from in Portmore and he burned them left, right, and center. And so him look out for them saying police gonna kill him now.
Mighty God.
Yeah. Him said him gone, him done him. I don't want to give it a drama, man. God, I don't want nobody him could have no say me. But him talk low, him come back. Him have up a marriage. Shoes and shirt, and that him a wear now. Them man never wear them color there yet. Oh, but him have a lot of youth around him, so and him not do not illegal, but him say him a them go send police to try kill him and that him say. So we are listen and watch.
My God. Well, thank you for calling in, brother. Big up yourself every time.
Yeah, man. Bye.
All right, then blessing. Yes, ABR family. So the word on the street, you hear it from this gentleman. So the people them just wait for him call it. The people them wait for him call it. Well, as me about to sign out right now, ABR family and viewers, you can feel free to go ahead and bless up the super chat. Donate to the channel if it's laid upon your heart. But for right now, we are sign out with that tune here.
Well, not going to no fast promise. The things that we are put to the back in the office. On the think we are novice. On the listen to this. Alright, yes, we are going to vote them out. Cause they not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we are tell them promptly. Look how the whole of them are on we will listen. Vote them out cause they not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we are tell them promptly. Oh, what the whole of them are on we. Argument done, time has come. And Joe back up your things and run. Marky G a come, we run the kingdom. Cause and Joe your time is done. Cause we put us in a office for 9 whole year. You sit down in there, just like you not here. And every day more money does a disappear. That's why we have a vote you out of the clear. Vote them out cause them not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and you fi tell them promptly. Oh what the whole of them are hungry. Yes, we have a vote them out. Cause them not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we a tell them promptly. Oh what the whole of them.
Pull up.
The things that we put to the back in the office. On the think we are novice. On the listen to this. Alright, yes we are gonna vote them out. Cause them not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we a tell them promptly. Look how the whole of them are on we will listen. Vote them out cause them not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we a tell them promptly. Oh what the whole of them are on we. Argument done, time has come. And Joe back up your things and run. Marky G a come, we run the kingdom. Cause and Joe your time is done. Cause we put us in a office for 9 whole year. You sit down in there just like you not here. And every day more money does a disappear. That's why we have a vote you out of the clear. Vote them out cause them not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and you fi tell them promptly. Oh what the whole of them are hungry. Yes we have a vote them out cause them not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out and we a tell them promptly. Oh what the whole of them.
Big up on yourself, ABR Massive. Soon back in our next video. Big up, thanks for the support every time. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Big up.